We're back Monday night edition of Sports Island here on the Husker Sports Network. Again, hope you had a good weekend. Got a holiday weekend coming up this next weekend, Labor Day weekend. I was going to get a little 3-day holiday. How about that? One guy that doesn't take many breaks joins us now. That's Tom Chattel, the lead columnist of the Omaha World Herald, and also you can read his work online at omaha.com. We should have been enjoying some Val's Pizza today, pal, but that's not the case.
Well, I guess you go to all kind of extremes to lose weight. So, there's going to be time off this fall. I need to find out. Our Nebraska golf course is open on Saturdays. I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, I think they may be a lot busier than they've been in the past. Before I get into your column over the weekend, which I thoroughly enjoyed, just want to get your reaction to the Big Ten's release today of finally announcing the vote by the presidents and chancellors. What did you learn? Do you feel like you're now satisfied with the answers that were provided by the league today?
What a letdown. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. But was that really so hard to do? Was that all this, drama? We needed the lawsuit. We needed, weeks of gnashing of teeth and columns and rip jobs and all of this, people hiding from the facts and releasing basic information. It's a vote. Release a vote. Was that so hard to do? No. 11-3, okay, fine. They won't tell us who did it, but again, as I wrote Sunday, the Big Ten has had many historical votes over the years, and they've said what they were. And was there a bigger vote than the 1973 tiebreaker of Ohio State, Michigan, where all the ADs had to vote to who to send to the Rose Bowl, but between Woody and Bo? Arguably, no. And they said it was 6-4. So just tell us what it was. And we might not have gotten to this place, but now I wonder, okay, now we have a vote. Is it over? Are they just going to go hide now? Or are things still on the table as far as playing maybe this fall? Is the lawsuit done? Is the issue over? It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
This will dovetail nicely into your column because it took these 8 Nebraska players to get that information out of them. And Nebraska's been pushing this since this whole thing broke almost 3 weeks ago, and that was kind of your point of the column, that Nebraska, even though they haven't been winning on the field, maybe won some respect with what they've done, correct?
Absolutely, and I've heard that from different people around the league, and it's great. I love what they've done. I love the fact that they have pushed back. It is the right time to push back. Now, we all think if Jim Delaney was around, that this wouldn't have gotten us far. And I believe if Delaney was there, he would have talked them into delaying the season or delaying a decision and possibly trying to play the season. So, but we'll never know. Jim's down in his cabin in North Carolina, and he's not coming back. So, I just think it's, Nebraska, it was good to see them push back. Again, this is the right time to do it because the league office is kind of fractured. The presidents have a guy, and Kevin Warren, who's trying to impress them, do everything he can to, win their favor. They're his bosses. With Delaney, it seemed like the other way around. He was telling the presidents what was going to happen. Warren doesn't have any sort of that kind of power or credibility. And after this, he never will probably. So I think it was the right time to do it. I love what Nebraska did. I think it gives the fact that Nebraska stepped up. The fact that and again, the university did not sue the league, but they certainly did not stand in the way. the fact that you take the league to court, that's a pretty. And then the Big Ten, that's a pretty big deal. That's amazing when you think about it a little bit. But Nebraska didn't blink, and so I love their attitude, and I hope it carries over to the field. I think there's a chance it might. Now, you get the right players out there, and of course, confidence comes with scoring touchdowns and making plays and winning games. But I think it'd be interesting to see if this attitude carries over a little bit.
Getting visiting with Tom Chattel, the lead columnist of the Omaha World-Herald, and also reading his work online, which is what I do at omaha.com. Can Husker fans be kind of encouraged, too, by the solidarity from the Nebraska leadership up and down the line? I mean, you look over, Jim Harbaugh obviously doesn't agree with his chancellor/president. I don't think James Franklin's probably overly happy that Penn State wasn't one of the schools that maybe voted to try to do this thing when they've got in-state schools like Pitt and Temple that are continuing to play. Shouldn't Husker fans be kind of encouraged by what they've seen from their leadership, Tom?
They haven't had this kind of unity or solidarity, as you were, since you and I were back in the old Big Eight. I'd say when Bob Devaney was the AD, Martin Massengale was the chancellor. He might have been the president. I don't know. He was in charge. I don't remember what exactly title he had. I remember he was the CFA president one year, but Martin Massengale was the guy. And then you had Bob Devaney, and then you had Osborne, and that's all you needed. and then we started, whereas Osborne and Bill Byrne would play nice, they were never really on the same page, and probably fought each other to some extent. So we haven't had this at Nebraska since the days of Bob Devaney as AD. So, yes, it's very helpful. Things I tend to get done, and they certainly wouldn't have had the guts to go after the Big Ten if they weren't like this. I'm trying to imagine a world where Sean Eichhorst is the AD in this situation, trying to tell Scott Frost, of course, they would never be together. Frost never would have come to Nebraska with Eichhorst. But I'm just trying to imagine Eichhorst trying to side with the Big Ten while Nebraskans wanted to play and head coach wanting to play. It would have been a circus. But this was not a circus. Nebraska very much on the same page. And, yes, I think all of that carries over. I really do.
You mentioned the Big Eight schools. Here in a few weeks, all the former Big Eight schools minus Nebraska and Colorado are going to be on the field. At least that's how it looks now. Isn't that going to give the Big Ten some heartburn? I mean, that has to ratchet up the intensity on that Big Ten office when they see these teams roll the ball out here in a few weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what I wrote for tomorrow, or I guess it's out tonight on online newsstands everywhere. The idea that, okay, is this going to go away now? The presidents have kind of relented and said, okay, here's our vote. Will that pacify everybody, or will there still be a momentum to get something done this fall? I think if the SEC, ACC, and the Big 12 have any kind of season and start playing games, yeah, that's going to bring the heat. That's going to bring the heat big time. And just watching the game the other night, Saturday night, between the FCS teams, I think they had a couple of key players out. They maybe didn't have a deep snapper or something. They still made do. They still played a great game. Imagine what the Power 5 leagues will do with all of their depth. I think we've watched high school games have a terrific weekend. Now we'll sit back and watch and see what kind of cases come out. But that's kind of what we'll do every week. But
Jay, have they been transparent at all about what if they've had positive cases? Where do they stand on all this, or have they kept that close to the vest?
They've kept it close to the vest, which has been kind of a, as a reporter, that's kind of been a sore point for me. The school every Monday has put out on its website, how many positive tests it's had, but that's for the whole school population, faculty, non-athletes, everything. So that as far as the athletic department at BYU, they have not given us any sort of number or anything like that. All they will say is we test 3 times a week. Every football player has been tested since I think July 1st, 3 times a week for COVID. So that's about the only thing they'll really let on.
Jay, have they talked about what they're going to allow inside Lavelle Edwards Stadium for home games, and is Navy allowing anybody to come watch the game on Monday?
Yeah, Navy is not allowing any fans. In fact, they just today announced that they had turned down an appeal from the 4,000 midshipmen brigade that had kind of appealed to show up. So yeah, Navy's not going to allow any fans. BYU hasn't said yet. There's kind of a talk that they're going to allow 20,000 people, which for a 65,000-seat stadium, I think is roughly, 33%. That seems kind of high to me, but they haven't officially said anything yet about that. The thing is, their home opener isn't until September 26th. They play Troy, one of those late added games. Mm-hmm. So they have a little bit of time before they, I think, have to make a decision.
What's the status of high school football in the state of Utah? We're playing it here in Nebraska. We do have one of our major districts is opted out to not play, but the rest of the state is. What's the status of that in your state?
Yeah, Utah's playing. They in fact they were the first game of the season for the entire country was held here. Some teams have already played 3 games.
Wow.
In Utah. Utah starts early, I don't know, to beat the winter or whatever, but they start mid-August with actual games. And they've had a few that had to be canceled, I think 3 or 4 because of positive testing for COVID. But so far, so good. And the one thing Utah is experiencing is like Nevada, Arizona, California, a lot of the neighboring schools have canceled, or neighboring states. So there's been an influx of high school athletes that are coming to Utah just so they can play, just so they can have a season. And it's created a little bit of some bad blood or ill feelings. I'm not sure how you would say it, but because some kids have been displaced because some of these star players from other states are coming in here just because they know Utah's going to do their best to play football this season. Wow. Kind of one of those unintended consequences, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. Interesting. Well, Jay, I don't know how much opponent preview you've done, but it looks on paper like this ought to be a pretty good matchup a week from tonight with BYU and Navy. I think the betting line's out. It's fairly close. Should be a pretty competitive game, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be interesting with no fans. And then obviously Navy runs the triple option. BYU hasn't faced anything of that sort since they played Air Force when they were both in the Mountain West, which was 9-10 years ago. So that's probably the biggest fear here in Provo is if BYU can stop that triple option and give its offense a chance to do its thing. BYU's really hanging its hat on a really good offense. But if they can't get the ball, if Navy controls the ball the whole game, then obviously they won't be able to show what they can do. So I think that's what it'll come down to and should be really interesting.
I'm looking forward to it, Jay. I'll be tuned in. I appreciate it. Travel safe, and let's hope you get to watch quite a bit of football here this fall.
Yeah, me too, for sure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
You bet. Jade Drew from the Deseret News out in Provo covers BYU football a week from tonight. The Monday night game. It's BYU and Navy. It'll be on ESPN on prime time. Jay joined us on our Sports Sunday Hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. All right, phone lines back open for you. 531-500-4686. You can also fire us off a text at that very same number on our U.S. Cellular text line. U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of Husker Athletics. Ben will rejoin me next. 531-500-4686, the number if you want to dot us up with a comment or a question. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you here on a Monday night. Thanks again to Jay Drew from the Deseret News out in Provo, previewing some BYU football. So they get set to take on the Navy. Next week, nobody there. No fans going to be allowed in that stadium for that game. It'll be on ESPN prime time on Labor Day, 1 week from tonight. Still, I think of BYU, and I can't get it out the image of my mind of the Hail Mary that they performed against Nebraska to start the Mike Riley year of Husker football.
Man, what an omen that was, huh? I mean, kind of pretty much how it went with that coaching staff, and could tell from the get-go that it was going to be rough. That was really unfortunate the way that happened.
That was a crushing loss because you knew it was going to be a good game going in. BYU had a pretty good football team. In fact, the Case and Hill, the quarterbacks, now with the Saints doing great things there, and Nebraska had Junior and Tommy Armstrong, back and forth game, but I never felt like Nebraska was going to lose. You kind of felt like Nebraska was going to make enough plays to win that, and a little bit like the Colorado game, early season losses that kind of flipped the script of a year. That was kind of the way that thing went. And then that team later kicked a game at Illinois, and then, it was just, it set the, you're right, it set the tone for that entire season that ended in a team that was not bowl eligible when the whole thing was done, and should have been. That was a good enough Nebraska team that should have been a bowl eligible type football team.
Yeah, definitely. That was a team you felt really good about. I think that was, you're looking forward to a fresh restart with Coach Riley. You felt good about the talent Nebraska had coming back. There are still plenty of parts there, to work with, and unfortunately, that just didn't happen. And then, just never really got better. Of course, Nebraska had the 6-0, 7-0 start, and then,
that was the next year. Yeah,
started playing some tough teams in year two,
right.
And then that season went off the rails, and we all know how season 3 went. So, I just never really got lifted off the ground, and that first game with BYU was pretty telling.
Crushing one. All right, got a text for us here, Ben. Do you guys believe the Big Ten's attorney and what was said today, or do you think it was to send the herd home as intended? Are you still interested in attorney Tom Mars, who's an attorney, I believe, in the state of Ohio, who's doing some digging about the Big Ten's handling of the situation? I sure am. Don't give in so easily.
I don't know why you would lie in official documents. So, at this point, I think I have every reason to believe the Big Ten. That would just be, hypothetically speaking, if they were to lie, that would just be an utter nightmare. But I have no reason not to believe them.
I don't know that we're giving in, but the Big Ten answered a large part of the filings by the Nebraska 8 players. They wanted documentation on the vote. They wanted to know if there was a vote and what was the count and what documents they used. For the most part, I think the Big Ten answered what they said, and I'm really proud of those 8 Nebraska kids because they got, as you said off the top, Ben, they got more answers out of this guy in this league than anybody has in the last 3 weeks. And so we know a lot more now than we did 3 weeks ago, and that really shouldn't have been the case, but it was, and so I'm proud of them for doing that. But I just don't know where you go from here. They kind of answered some of the main complaints you have. Again, I think the judge is going to dismiss this thing outright. Also on our text line, somebody said, you mentioned Notre Dame as being an independent. Aren't they a part of the ACC this year, and will they stay in there? I don't think so. I think this is a one-time deal. They have their arrangement with the ACC that all their sports other than football are a member of that league, and that their football arrangement is to play 6 ACC teams per year. And I've not seen anything that's going to adjust that moving forward. They adjusted that now because of the lack of opponents that they could go get because of all the people that are canceling games on them. And you think about Notre Dame's traditional schedule, they always play USC, they always play Stanford. Well, those two got taken away. They had a Big Ten game with Wisconsin that was taken away. So they were down games, much like we talked with Jay Drew about BYU. You had to kind of scramble mode. Well, the ACC said, well, for this year we'll let you play more than your 6 ACC games. But, Ben, I don't get the opinion that Notre Dame's going to go away from that after we put this thing behind us in 2020.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's a tough situation. I mean, we had Notre Dame in our preseason top 25. That is a team we were able to get to. Pete Sampson, who we talked to, always. I mentioned that. Well, how often does it get brought up? Them being an independent and how Notre Dame's fans feel about that, and he was very adamant, saying it comes up all the time. I mean, anytime conference expansion or the playoffs or anything like that happens, it gets brought up. But yeah, he didn't really get the indication that they officially wanted to join any league. But the agreement with the ACC is a really good thing that's happened to the Irish.
No doubt. I mean, it's been perfect for them. It locks in 6, and it allows them, like I said, to keep their annual battles with USC, Stanford. I think they play the Navy every year, so that doesn't go away. It gives them their flexibility. They're very proud of that independence, and I don't see them letting go of that at all. All right, need to take a break. 531-500-4686. You want to jump on board? Back with our final segment of this hour next. 500-4686, the number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you here on a Monday night. Let's head to the phones. Jamie, you're up next on Sports Nightly. Good evening.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you guys tonight. How are you guys tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Hey, the question I got is specifically what information was supplied to the court or whoever by the Big Ten? What specific documentation was there?
Well, there was the announcement today that they came out, and it was, I think it ended up, Greg, was it ended up released to the public? They put together a document that basically listed, let's see, what they call it here. They called it a brief. They called it a brief. So basically, what happened was it was a response to the lawsuit that I'm sure you're alluding to, and seeking transparency with the vote. And so they did pull some quotes. So what we do know is that I didn't think that we knew before was there is a 60% requirement for the presidents and chancellors to meet to agree to postpone the season or to move the season. Obviously, the 11-3 vote made it 78.6, so it clipped that 60%. So they did clarify that it was an 11-3 vote. There was a vote that took place, and in reference to the ongoing health concerns, they listed their 2 sources for information, which were the Big Ten Task Force for Emerging Infectious Diseases. The second one was the Sports Medicine Committee. So those were the 2 areas in which they gathered their information, and they clarified the vote at 11-3 and had to clip 60%. And it was later discovered that it was Nebraska, Iowa, and Ohio State were the 3 that voted to keep football in the fall. So that's essentially what we learned. There wasn't like a big document of 5 or 6 pages of legal jargon that they got into. From my understanding, the brief was very brief, and that's all really came out of it.
And accompanied by a sworn affidavit.
So we don't know what specific medical or health information the decision was made off of.
The judge has that, but yeah, they did not disclose that. But yeah, they did file the brief along with a sworn affidavit detailing the vote. So again, I know there's some people that still are disputing whether there was a vote. Well, they've signed a legal document now. I would find it a little hard to believe that wasn't done. But as far the court has the brief and the sworn affidavit, I don't know if that's been made public on what exactly studies that they used from the medical standpoint. But again, you go back to the lawsuit filed by the 8 Nebraska football players. Their main point one, was they wanted documentation of was there an official vote and did it meet league requirements. The league provided that today, and then asked that the lawsuit be dismissed. And my guess is, and I'm not a lawyer, my guess is that it will be dismissed by this judge who has overnight to go through the documents that the Big Ten supplied today to move on. And again, I kind of feel like it's time now to do that, Ben. I mean, I know we had a guy on the Texas who said stop giving up, but at some point you're just kind of banging your head into the wall. I mean, Ronnie Green, Nebraska's chancellor, is saying, yeah, there was a vote. So he's been on record saying that. Now we got the affidavit filed in court that there was a vote. We can all disagree with it. We can all say that they use flawed medical advice and that the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 is getting good medical advice. But it's like this is so much legal jargon that I'll go find 5 guys that can tell me what I want to hear. You can go find 5 guys that tell you what you want to hear. I just don't know if that serves us much purpose.
No, and at some point you're beating a dead horse, and you're looking. The image of you crying over spilled milk becomes you crying over spilled milk. I mean, I kind of feel like it was a small victory, at least from Nebraska's standpoint today.
Sure.
Take your victory and move on. I mean, you don't want to ruin earlier we were talking about, did Nebraska earn some respect and help their reputation around the league? You don't want to ruin that by keep going when nothing's going to change. So take your small victory, start preparation for whenever the season does happen, and I think now we can finally move on. But to get some of that resolution and to get some of that feeling that, okay, well, this served its purpose and now we can move on. Keep on going with this, and it's just not going to it is not going to leave you with a good reputation around the league.
And here, what was revealed today should have been revealed 3 weeks ago. That's the sad thing, that it took this step by a group of Husker players to get this information out that should have been revealed when the commissioner made the announcement that football was done. Fall sports were done in this league. It's been a travesty. They've handled it about as poorly as you can possibly handle it. But again, I think today answered a lot of questions that we all had, and I'm glad we had the answers, and thank goodness those Nebraska players for helping push those out. I want to thank Kevin Kugler for spending some time with us. Congratulations to him on his new gig with the NFL on Fox. Also to Jay Drew from the Deseret News out in Provo to talk about BYU football with us. They play Navy 1 week from tonight. Coming up next time, we'll have our weekend rewind, a look back on a busy couple of days in the sports world, including an amazing finish at the BMW Championships over the weekend. How about those putts by DJ and John Rahm? Those are unbelievable at the end of that golf tournament yesterday. We'll talk about that. We'll also have our weekend winners. All that coming up next hour.